Hi, everyone. I'm Monika. I'm with MSE Environmental. I'm the business development manager over Texas. And today I am joined by Erik, one of our owners of MSE Environmental. We're excited to give you a quick look at who we are, what we do, and most importantly, how to help businesses like yours stay safe, compliant, and protected from environmental risks. For those watching who may not know much about MSC Environmental, Erik, could you give us a quick overview of the company and what inspired you to lead this work for over 20 years now?
Yes, thanks, Monica, for having me on the show here. I think, one of the things is having a business and being an entrepreneur is a lot of work. I never really thought I would kind of dive into this, but from a youngster, having my own paper route, and then seeing my dad have his own company as well called Mr. Scoreboard, I'm like, you know what? You kind of have control of it, even though there's a lot of things that ride on your shoulders. I started my environmental company about 20, 21 years ago, and I saw a need in the market where other people weren't serving it that well. So they were specifically coming in with mold or water intrusion. There are a lot of houses being built. And initially, we got started using some dogs to sniff out mold. We used that for a tool for a period of time, and then we transitioned to a little bit more science-based methodologies, doing inspection assessment, doing sampling methods. And originally, what started us is I had one apartment complex that they were remodeling like thousands of rooms. A contractor, and he's like, Erik, can you go visually inspect every single room of these apartments? Here's a list of 4,000. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw dollar signs immediately. I was like, sure, I can do that. So I took my marker, and he's like, Erik, all these are in construction environments. So we really don't need to, there's nobody living here, and we're going to renovate these individually. So the way that we actually did the inspection and assessment at the time was going and marking the areas that have water intrusion, mold, marking it with a marker, and then them removing those areas and not having to build really a full-on containment besides having PPE for the people removing it as well. So that kind of got my footing up and going. And then as I started learning that I could make more money and serve more clients, I started going into different client industries like healthcare, insurance, casinos, because I was in Las Vegas working with residential realtors. And so that kind of got it off the ground here.
Wow. Many businesses don't realize the risks until something goes wrong. So, why is it so critical for companies to stay on top of asbestos mold and, other hazardous material issues?
Well, as a business owner, as a building owner, a property manager, depending on how you work in the industry, every structure is built differently. Some are built of concrete, some are built of wood, some are built of sheetrock. You're building with different building materials. So, like for example, when you're talking about asbestos, a lot of asbestos came in different types of like analytes such as chrysotile and chrysotillite, and so that was mixed in and I thought was a good building material. So it was mixed into different batches of materials and then applied to walls and ceilings, and it's had good tensile strength. And that led to later on knowing that, hey, this was a good building material. Later on, it's like, hey, when we demo or renovate it, exposed to, and like the fibers get in your, when you breathe in the fibers. So now there's a whole regulation behind it now that EPA, HERAS, schools have to adopt within that. When it comes to mold, mold is more of a byproduct of water intrusion, temperature, building materials. Since we build everything with sheetrock over here, and not this is not a concrete block, it grows pretty much everywhere from coast to coast here in the States. And you have other things like radon, which is a gas, and lead paint, base paint, which you can paint this color here. And if you're cutting into it, it can kind of get exposed. So depending on the industry, you also have silica, you have, water intrusion, you have other different types of hazards, soot, char from fires that can be exposed to different buildings, residential homes, multifamily, just even, natural disasters that cause a lot of these elements. So there's a need for environmental consulting and making sure you and me live in a healthy indoor environment and actually work in a healthy indoor environment. So this is where, the demand for companies, not only to educate clients like ourselves and people like you to share what we do in order to be able to solve their problems.
Of course. And what would you say sets MSC Environmental apart from others in the field?
Well, there's a lot of great consulting companies out there. we started in Las Vegas, and there's engineering firms, environmental companies. One of the things that I think that MSC sets everybody is the people. We think out of the box. We actually create content that actually allows you to see what value we bring to the table. We're educating you. We're teaching people about our services and how our services can solve your problems. We're just not leading and just trying to sell high ticket service where you're paying for something and not delivering value from A to Z. Creating content, educating different property managers, different industries, contractors, roofers, restoration companies, and a lot of them need strategic partnerships. You can have a restoration company that will often need a mold assessment company to do their mold assessments prior to them doing mold removal, especially in Texas, Florida. You'll need an asbestos consultant to be able to, you'll need an asbestos consultant to be able to go and do an asbestos survey prior to doing asbestos abatement or even lead. So a lot of these things are strict, there's regulations behind it. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sure you've worked with hundreds of businesses over the years, Erik, but do you have one that particularly stood out, or do you have like a memorable project where our team made a real impact on a client?
Yeah, I have a lot. After 21 years, we have just so many different stories. I guess some of the recent stories that we've had is our Dallas team, and we've actually served a lot of companies that need to have water testing for, it's called the GSA water testing for Legionella, copper, for bacteria. We've been able to respond to a lot of government buildings, cities, municipalities, and we did testing for them and provided information for the government regulated buildings so they could actually report back to the government, making sure they're in compliance with what needs to get done. So every time they called, we responded to them. We answered all their questions. We responded fast to get to a quote for them. We got the results quick using top labs that were compliant with the regulations that needed to get done. We provided a report. We highly skilled people. And so all that works in place, and to have an outcome where the client's like, you're on it, you respond back, you get a report, and it's like thumbs up.
Of
So that's
course.
exciting for us. We're also doing some stuff here in the Pacific Palisades in Southern California, where we had a lot of fires too. I'm saddened to say there's so many houses that burned to the ground, and now a lot
Unfortunately.
of them are exposed by soot, char, and ash for wildfire vegetation's petals. We're helping a lot of them too. So there's a lot of different avenues that we've helped. Our strategic partnerships, they look at us to be like, hey, we need you at this time of the day, this time of the night, and they call us and they can lean on us too.
And then for any companies watching, what's like one key piece of advice that you'd give about environmental safety and compliance?
Let's see. I think that takes it down to the OSHA standard, EPA standards, city and municipalities. We also internally not only make sure that clients are aware that when you're in a building, you have a healthy indoor environment. You have to make sure that your employees are following the OSHA standards, making sure that there's permissive exposure limits when they're doing type of work. Let's say you're working with granite, or you're making countertops. You have to make sure that they're grinding, cutting, they're not exposed to silica levels. If you're in a building and you have a water intrusion, a water leak, you want to make sure that that flood gets taken care of, extracted very fast, so there's no mold, which is secondary damage. If you're dealing with asbestos and you're a demo or renovating a building, you want to make sure that it's getting surveyed to determine what is there or not. So there's a lot of different reasons to have our services there, but there's also a lot of good reasons to have the knowledge of why it needs to be begun to begin with, because those knowledge helps you make better decision-making processes, especially as a property manager, a roofer, a general contractor, a restoration company. And the people that give you the answers are the ones that usually are the experts.
Of course. I mean, I would probably say do before rather than later. I know we've had many instances where they call us too late and, there's nothing we can do, but think ahead. I would always just say think ahead. But thank you, Erik, and thanks for tuning in. We hope that we gave a good glimpse into MSC Environmental and how we serve businesses every day. And of course, if your business ever needs environmental testing or consulting, always reach out to us. Whether it's asbestos, mold, or hazardous materials, MSC Environmental is here to help you stay safe, compliant, and ahead of the curve.